My name is Davy Jones. I'm a detective constable in the police. I have combined ADHD. I first realised I had ADHD when I was seeing a counsellor for after the breakup of a previous relationship. Once I was talking to her about the sort of things I was going through, she suggested to me that I might have ADHD. Looking back now at my childhood and my time at school, we found, me and my wife found old school reports which say that I was very fidgety, always interrupting, didn't show interest in subjects that bored me, and had a sort of attitude that I wouldn't be able to do things when I first tried them. It seems quite obvious to me now, looking at that I probably did have ADHD, but I imagine the teachers probably didn't think about that, because my ADHD didn't manifest itself in sort of the stereotypical hyperactivity, naughty boy sort of way, and that's probably why it was completely missed. When I was at university, I had massive problems with sort of my executive function, getting things done. I would get set deadlines for coursework, and no matter how hard I tried, I would only find myself doing all of the work very much at the last minute. Deadlines meant nothing to me, and I could only make my brain work under pressure. When I started working for the police, I quickly gravitated towards investigative work, which suited me in terms of the way my ideas and the way my analytical part of my brain works. But again, anything that's kind of longer term investigations or things that might be a little bit boring, like paperwork, I've always massively struggled with. And learning about ADHD has helped me understand why I have these struggles, because all of those things together have led me to having quite poor self-esteem. I was diagnosed at 36, obviously you've lived 36 years of my life with a condition I didn't know I had, and that's obviously been manifested itself in a way that I'm in a situation where everyone else understands something and maybe I don't, and not knowing about ADHD led to me thinking that I was just a bit thick and a bit more stupid than my colleagues. Since being diagnosed, I've been taking medication for my ADHD. It is really, really helpful. It allows me to focus a lot better, and the best way I can put it is to see the bigger picture in situations. It also helps me control my emotional dysregulation, because I'd certainly say my emotional dysregulation and my RSD is the thing I probably learned the most about since I've been diagnosed with ADHD, and probably the biggest thing in terms of my personal relationships, understanding that medication helps, but it's not a golden bullet. It doesn't solve everything. So I've looked into access to work and I've got funding for coaching and counselling sessions, which I think have helped me immensely, because the biggest thing for me about my diagnosis is kind of just learning how my brain works and why my brain does things differently, and how to communicate better with people. This has helped me at work. It's allowed me to explain to my peers and my line managers, the way they have to communicate things to me, set their expectations. Also allows me to explain to them that if I'm having a bad day, why that might be, and why I might have struggles on a particular day because of my emotional dysregulation and my low moods. Allowing me, being diagnosed and understanding the way my brain works has allowed me to sort of put strategies in place to allow me to work better. So when I've got a large piece of work now, I don't try and sit there for hours upon end trying to do that piece of work. I try and chunk it down and break it down into manageable parts. So I'll work for half an hour, take a break, that kind of thing. It just allows me to do those bits of work that my brain doesn't necessarily find enjoyable. It just allows me to manage that a lot better. Knowing my ADHD has allowed me to focus on my strengths. My hyperfocus, when used properly, allows me to get through like pieces of work far quicker than my colleagues. I have more ideas in an hour than most of my colleagues were having a day. And in meetings, when we're trying to solve problems, I'm often the one to come up with the solutions, because I can think very fast on my feet, and yeah, come up with real practical solutions to problems. I also have an endless amount of enthusiasm, which again, if harnessed in the correct way, is a massive asset in my work. You know, in terms of, I do a role in training at the moment, so you know it's massively important when I'm doing my training sessions to be enthusiastic and you know, show that enthusiasm for the work I'm doing. It's important to sort of say that not all people with ADHD are the same, although we share a lot of traits. Everyone with ADHD is completely different, and people who I've met with ADHD will share very similar traits to me, but again, equally will have a lot of massive differences as well, and it's important to remember that.
Hi everyone, my name is Julia Hardman and I've got ADHD, dyslexia and dyspraxia. I didn't get diagnosed with ADHD until 2 years ago. Getting the diagnosis was really important for me because it's really helped me understand myself, which I've never understood for years and years, more so than my dyslexia and dyspraxia. So I just want to talk to you about some life skills that have really helped me with my ADHD, dyslexia and dyspraxia, but mainly ADHD. So I use my phone an awful lot, so I'll use my phone as a recorder to remind myself of voice messages. I'll use it as a notes app to make notes on for passwords and things like that, because I'm always forgetting it, or if I write things on a piece of paper I'll lose it, whether it's on a note on the phone. It's really good. I also use my phone as a reminder to remind me of really important events coming up, because time blindness comes with ADHD and that's something I'm really bad at. I need a visual diary, so I cannot do electronic diaries. They just don't work for me. So I have to have a diary that shows me the full week, and I actually have time slots from 8 o'clock in the morning through till 8 o'clock at night with a little notes bit at the bottom. And that for me helps me really time and plan my diary, everything to the letter really. And what I tend to do is I get my diary at the start of the year and I plan everything in from holidays, because otherwise it just doesn't work and it just doesn't happen at all. I've got Irlen syndrome, which is a visual stress disorder, which you can normally have with dyslexia. So the glasses also really help, because if I'm looking at white on black, it just goes into one, where the glasses really help. I have changed to a stand-up desk, which has made a huge difference. So I'm not getting the backache and all the aches around sort of me hips and things like that. Really good, and lots of movement breaks. But what I find is when I'm doing the stand-up desk at home, if I'm working from home, I can move naturally without it sort of bothering me really. But particularly if I'm doing Zoom meetings, I can actually be standing and just moving myself. So the stand-up desk has made a huge difference with planned in movement breaks. So again, I have to set the timer and get it to bleep, because once I get really busy in work, I will get hyper-focused and I just won't stop, I'll keep working. So setting myself a timer and just having a break for every 5 minutes, walking around, really helps. The technology side of things, I use Dragon to dictate anything I need. So if I do reports, and then Dragon reads it back to me so it can pick up mistakes and things like that. If I'm doing a big piece of work, so when I was doing my degrees and masters and stuff like that, I really struggled with listening in college. So what I did is I had a separate recorder, and I used to over-listen to the lectures that actually helped me. And then if I was doing essays, I would talk about the ideas that I wanted to do, and then basically get a big piece of flip chart and use different coloured pens to map it all out. I can't use the computer to do mapping, and there is things out there that you can do for that, but I didn't personally find that. I have a visual checklist right at the door before I go out to remind me: glasses, computer, phone, work phone. The amount of times I've set out and forgot my glasses and forgot something. So that at the door is just a really good check-up, and it sounds ridiculous, but it really works for me. Bedtime, I either have a pen and jotter handy or my recorder. So again, if I'm trying to get off to sleep and there's loads of stuff going through my head, if I put it down in writing or I get it in a voice recorder, it's off my head and it helps me to get off to sleep really better. And then the other side is my mental health. What I've changed is my walking, instead of going really, really fast, I've done more mindful walking. So it's just taking it a bit slower, being mindful about walking slower and looking at nature, looking at the trees, listening to the birds. And that's really, really helped. Really enjoy swimming, biking as well. So I'm getting that dopamine fix by the exercise, which really helps me. I'm really into meditation because with ADHD, your brain's going so fast all the time that you really need to learn to switch it off. Well, I did anyway. So by listening to guided meditations really, really helped me. So I've talked a bit fast because that's the way I am as well with the ADHD. We talk a little bit fast, but that's what's personally helped me.